Hello. All right, let's get this thing a rolling. Hello. Hello and welcome. This is my podcast. This is the podcast I do what I want. I am host slash creator slash, person in their home office, Hollis Joe McCullum. And this month we're talking about spooky season because it's the best season of all the seasons because it's spooky and I love it. And if you see me smelling my hands a lot on the live YouTube video, it is because I put rose oil on my hands and they smell delicious. So just in case. But yes, so happy fall 2025, happy spooky season. Oh, I always loved trick or treating as a child and a teenager, and it's just a wonderful time of year, and everybody, I think. I don't think I've ever met a single person who didn't enjoy fall, even if they don't like cold weather. They enjoy something about fall, and Halloween, of course, is the most wonderful of holidays. So let's get into it. I wanted to kick things off with just talking about a few things that I personally think are great about fall in general, but spooky season. So, because it's, themed. And also I will show you my cool little like leaf crystal thing. Isn't this cute? Is the cutest. I love it. Very nice. Very nice little leaf. So if you, it's just a like little carved in pretty stone leaf that I have for those of you who just listen. But so one of my favorite things, speaking of my leaf, is crunching the leaves under your feet when you're just walking and you see them on the sidewalk and you just crunchy, crunch, crunch, crunch. The crunchies are probably one of my favorite things about the season overall. The great thing about the crunchies is that you don't actually need to be like in a well, I mean, if you're in a tropical climate, you're a little like, I mean, you got to go someplace where the leaves are falling, but most places in the world, you get some fallen leaves and you can crunchy crunch crunch. Of course, just the smell in the air. There is a certain scent I think every season has a certain scent to the air, but there is something special about the scent in the air and the earth and how the forest changes and everything in the fall. So those two things, I enjoy a lot of simple joys. Apparently, I do. I really do. I also and I uh, well, yummy treats. I do like pumpkin. I'm not like pumpkin fanatic. Honestly, cinnamon, cloves, those sorts of things, those are what I really love. Oranges, oh, oranges with clove and cinnamon. Oh, yum, 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 yum. And I love, apples and just all the spiced things. Yeah, pumpkin's great. I enjoy it, but I actually seek out more like the spices of fall and not so much the pumpkins and the squashes of fall, but it's absolutely wonderful. I love to make my own ice like, my own teas at home. Right now, I have a really lovely, fresh orange, turmeric, cinnamon, clove, and a little and local honey tea that's it's delicious, and I brewed it, and I made it into an iced tea, and it's just in the fridge, and it's fantastic, and I, strongly recommend, doing that if you enjoy those sorts of things. Halloween, obviously. Obviously, it's awesome for a reason. Who doesn't? I'm a former cosplayer. I mean, I still cosplay for fun. It's awesome. It's awesome. Who doesn't like playing dress up? And I was gonna wear a hat, but then I got lazy and I realized I was already sitting down and, I didn't go searching for my hat, so apologies. And one thing that I personally love so much, and I know that my pole dance sisters love too, is creepy pole dance choreography and just moves in general, like pretending you're a creepy ghost hanging and like zombie hang and just like hanging from the pole, like a dead body and doing, like, all sorts of weird I mean, like, people think about, like, sexy stuff when they think of pole dance, but there are so many amazingly frightening things you can do, like broken doll moves and, like, looking it's creepy choreo is the bomb diggity, and I love it so much, and I know I am not the only one. Shout out to all my pole dance sisters, especially Chrissy, who introduced me to creepy choreo, which I just like. It's the best, and I have a couple of routines that I need to do, um, that I'm very excited to dance. So I'm gonna get to those this week and enjoy that. But those are my personal favorite things about fall. Creepy choreo, obviously, you can do any time of year, but you know, I just it feels more fun. Feels more fun in the fall. So I will be doing that this week. Jumping right into some timeline updates for me as an author. My transitions are super smooth this week. I have a lot going on. So multiverse, this was it just it was just last weekend. Wow, multiverse last weekend was amazing. I had a wonderful time. The design your cover, like kind of tutorial I did for about like doing it yourself slash working with a designer. I feel that went really, really well. Got some lovely feedback. My other panels were a lot of fun and got to do some wonderful meet and greets and all sorts of great, great things. Got to chat with some friends. I have a lot of author friends now, and I absolutely love it. So, got to catch up with a bunch of them, and then I'm really excited for Conjuration coming November 14th in the Sonesta. I always want to pronounce that differently. Sonesta hotel in Duluth. I Conjuration is one of my very favorite cons every year, and as an author, and I mean, even just to attend, I'm super excited about it. I'll be doing a couple of panels, one of which is a lit RPG about using character sheets that you would do. You don't have to play Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder or whatever to use the character sheets for your writing. I actually like to utilize them for just having my character descriptions and things and referencing them while I'm writing. So I'll be doing like a panel on that, and there'll be several other authors who role play and like to use role playing techniques that actually help them write. And we'll be discussing that a little bit. I think my friend Bob Magoo is on that one with me, and I don't know if Ben is. I know Ben and Bob are the best. Ben Meeks, Bob Magoo, two awesome fantasy authors who write like cool horror and some. Ben does some sci-fi as well. But yeah, they're great guys. And and they're speaking of RPGs, Bob is heading up some amazing like creature RPG games and things like that. There will be several panels that he's doing. I'm only participating in one because I do have to be at my table to sell books every once in a while. um, and that will be exciting. But I'm really thrilled for Conjuration this year. I'm just thrilled to see everybody, to hang out with Chris and Angela, with all my buddies, and do some amazing panels, chat it up, meet amazing people, and make new friends and see old ones. So come to Conjuration in Duluth, Georgia. If you haven't yet, you can buy your passes online or you can show up and buy on site. I know they have 1 day passes as well as the full weekend pass. It's the best. So do that. I'm doing a lot of podcasts. I'm really excited about that, of course. So I'm recording a podcast tomorrow evening. With my friend Dave. He's in Canada, and it is the Living the Next Chapter podcast. I'm not sure when it will air. I'll let you know. I'm doing another. Dave does this other podcast. It's a podcast about people who podcast. So he asked if I would be willing to do that. So I was like, yes, I currently podcasting. And happy to chat it up. I was on Trip's podcast. My friend Trip Ainsworth, I realized last night, I've known Trip for years. I have been mispronouncing his name all this time. I always say Trip Ainsworth. His last name is pronounced Ainsworth. Yeah, yeah, my bad, my bad. Sorry, Trip, but we had a fantastic time just, like, chatting it up and being ridiculous and talking about gross history and, what ancient Roman women used to dye their hair, which is not, some of them were fermented dead leeches, but apparently get a lovely shade of brunette from that. So but we always have a great time. We had another great time, so check out Trip's page. He's on, YouTube, of course. He has his audiobooks. I voice a lot of the characters. Uh, really good stuff. And oh, I'm just realizing I have forgotten like huge exciting news. So Bookfest, which had their virtual conference this weekend, which was really fun. I only got to log on a couple times to check it out because I've been running around like a crazy woman, but it was it was so awesome. The Book Fest, I submitted Tear in the World and Spare the Swallow into their contest. Just the 2 books, Tear in the World, I submitted to 2 different categories, and Spare the Swallow, I only submitted into 1 category, and they all placed. Um, Not just both books, I didn't just get 2 awards, I got 3 awards because Tear in the World did placed 2nd place in the fantasy book series category, and it also placed 3rd in the dark fantasy book category. So I entered 2 I always think I'm stacking my odds, but I placed in both categories for the same book, and Spare the Swallow got an honorable mention. So, like, 4th place, essentially. For historical fantasy. I'm so excited. It's amazing. I so every single book I have published so far has won at least 1 award. To Save a World has won 2, and Tear in the World has won 2, and I'm so grateful, but now I have 7 national I'm a 7-time national award-winning author. I Over the moon. Thank you so much to Bookfest. I've just I'm still a bit flabbergasted. I'm really proud and really, like, grateful and all of those wonderful things, and thank you to my readers for reading my books and just everybody for, uh, you know, "Hi, thank you for liking the things I write down." I really appreciate it. So that was yippee! That was so exciting. Um, I have The Key, which is the first book in the Rashawn Histories trilogy. So the next trilogy coming out in the Rashawn series, and the Histories trilogy, I think I've mentioned before several times on the podcast that the character of Kristen Quailvan, if you have read Tear in the World, this is not a spoiler, but a character named Kristen Quailvan exists in Tear in the World as an old woman. And in her couple of chapters, she is talking to Aram, but she alludes to something that happened to her in her youth. And it's and the key is 600 years into the past because we're talking about elves here, and my elves live for roughly 700 years. Kristen is actually above average lifespan. Don't worry about that. She's just, healthy. She's a dancer, very healthy. And so, yeah, it goes back about 600 years into the past, from, Tear in the World, and it talks about, what happened to her. And it also talks about so the key, um, talks about the major historical event with wizards that's also in Tear in the World. So the main villain, Catharos, in Tear in the World, and, who really idolized the wizard Groningen, who was not a good guy. Uh, but Groningen was no more. But anyway, that whole story about Groningen and how and why he was so famous and which intertwines with what happened to Chris and Quailvan, which um, yeah, that's the key, and that's all you get to find out what happened. I'm so excited. And I'm leaving even more Easter eggs in the key. Cover reveal for that is coming December 5th. I said December 5th. I put it on the notes right here. I made it do. But it will be a March release. The book is done. I am in editing. I've actually already designed the cover. I need to work on the blurb. The blurb is it's gonna happen. The blurb's the hardest part for, I think, most authors, like, we can write a 500-page novel, but then, 2 paragraphs is frighteningly difficult. So, um, a succinct 2 paragraphs, but yes, the cover reveal, not the blurb. Blurb I might not get to until January, but that is coming December 5th. I am so excited to share this cover with you. I think it's super pretty. And yeah, and I've already started writing the first draft of the second book in the Histories trilogy, the key will be released in March of 2026, and I will have an official release party for the key at Second and Charles in Roswell. I, of course, will give you more details as we get there, but it'll happen. And I'm thrilled to have an official book release party because I honestly haven't had one before. And so that's thank you, Second and Charles. Thank you, Brandy, specifically. Very, very happy and grateful for that relationship. So yay! And I'll be doing more events with Second and Charles just moving forward for forevermore. They're wonderful, wonderful to work with, and really, really proud and excited to be working with them. I'm proud and excited a lot and grateful, but that's okay. I can say it as much as I want because that's how I feel. And gosh, I feel like I'm going blank. That's why I have notes. Okay, so I'm working on the first draft of Ambition and Justice, which is book 2 in the Rashawn History series. That one will be coming out in spring, hopefully March. Right now, we're just going to say spring of 2027. So the Histories trilogy, it's going to be 1 book a year over the next 3 years. So 2026, you get the key. 2027, you get Ambition and Justice. 2028, you get Starflower's Way, which is actually going to be very tied in with the Heavenly Wars and how that came about, the signs of that apocalypse and everything, and had a lot of fun writing that out. Pardon me, writing that outline, actually, because I have already laid them all out. And the Histories books are strongly interwoven with the lore of the rest of Rashawn from the original trilogy to Save a World and all of that. Obviously, Terror in the World and the Key are deeply connected. But in Ambition and Justice, you actually find out how the monks of the Monk's Mountain in To Save a World, if you know, you know, came into being. Because they are weird-ass humanoid things that in To Save a World, they're just like, "We don't know." But it's strange, but they're powerful, and they like to make bargains and stuff. But in Ambition and Justice, which takes place a while, like 2,000 years before To Save a World happens, because we're going deep into the historical record, you find out the origins of the monks on the Monk's Mountain. And I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited to share that because I left it a little mysterious on purpose because I like to leave little Easter eggs, and I like to just pepper it all out, and yeah, and all the things. Oh, also in the key, again, if you've read my books, in the original trilogy, I reference the great wizard Elysius a lot, who was Tim's master, the great wizard, the great and powerful Tim, Timalier Hootsivicus, if you're wondering how to pronounce his full name, which was a bunch of letters I just like jumbled together, and I was like, yeah, that works. And then I taught myself how to pronounce that. Means nothing except everything, apparently. And his master, really, he was the creator of the Stone of Elysius that they're obviously seeking in To Save a World, and that, is very important to the plot points, all of that. But in the key, you also get to meet the great wizard Elysius, which I love. I love writing him. He is super awesome, and he will show up in Starflower's Way as well. He does not show up in Ambition and Justice because he's not alive yet. He's is Ambition and Justice is like over 1,000 years before the key. So the key is like 600 years before, like from Terra in the World, it's like 610 years back before the Heavenly Wars, all these other, because all of the Histories volumes take place prior to the Heavenly Wars. So you get to see the old world of Rashan when all of the gods were still alive before they killed each other all off, and the pre-apocalypse world of Rashan and how it operated. And there are creatures that I'm writing in that became extinct during the apocalypse, during the heaven, during the hard times and all sorts of things. And I'm very, very excited about the Histories trilogy. And by the way, also, as many of you may know, To Save a World, based on a D&D game, Queen Witch, Terra in the World, those were just brain children. But each book in the Histories trilogy is inspired by a different D&D game that my best friend and I played. And the key in Starflower's Way, it's more the characters from that game that are inspired, but they're in there. And then that one's the least accurate to the actual game because the actual game didn't serve my plot. But the key is mostly Ambition and Justice. I am taking it almost quite literally. That was actually the very first game Ashley and I ever played. Esla and Ashlaya. And actually my original character's name, and this was back in the 90s, long before Frozen. The name Elsa was not well known in the US. And my Elsa, who I created in 1994, people. 1994, before Pixar was even a thing. That was, her name was Elsa. She had curly blonde hair and green eyes. And so and that was my character. And then and her personality is nothing, she's not a queen, whatever, but her appearance is, and I actually would often draw her with a braid over one shoulder, and I'm like, what the hell? I don't know how the hell this fucking happened. But when I was doing my outline for Ambition and Justice, I was like, I don't want to change her appearance because I like her appearance, and her appearance actually plays into a few things for me for her character development. But I can't call her Elsa because Frozen was way too popular, and I just don't want people to think that I was inspired by the film because I came up with that character and that name, or decided to use that name, literal decades before that film ever was created. Not even before, like 2 decades before that came out. At least 2 decades. So I still, but the book won't come out until decades after the film. So yeah, so I changed the L and the S in her name, and her name is Esla in the book because I thought about changing her name completely, but I didn't want to. And, so yes, it's Esla and Ashlaya. But that one is almost just like copy paste straight from, the D&D game, but with more, um we were quite young when we played that one again, 1994 people. So yeah, but I'm super excited. Obviously, I'm getting lost in old, like, nostalgia and everything, but I'm very, very excited for the Histories trilogy. Lost Beacon Chronicles, I'm working on it. Obviously, I'm focusing on the Rashawn series right now. It's my more popular series, but I had so much interest in recent events at the Lost Beacon Chronicles and a lot more people purchasing the book, so I was just like, "Hooray, hooray." I'm so excited because I have a lot of my heart and, and of course my historian side, and it's again, I always say this disclaimer, it is not accurate. It is heavily inspired by true historical events to the point that it is basically Lucretia wandering through, through the earth, um, going through these historical events, and it's like alternate dimension kind of things. It's a fantasy novel, so I definitely take liberties, but I do cite the events that I'm inspired by in the introductions of each of the Lost Beacon Chronicles books. So if you want to leave a little paragraph and it talks about, okay, like this is my introduction, this is what I was inspired by, but like, and you're gonna get some funny little anecdotes and things like that that, um, you know, you can Google to see if it really happened. In a lot of cases, it will have. It will not have happened exactly how I do because fantasy and magic. And of course, Lucretia is not real. So, and she's the main character. So there's a lot of things. But I do put a lot of real people in the books, real historical figures. And I also, in all the books, so I have the introduction that tells you what events were inspiring the storyline for that particular book in the series. And at the end of the book, I actually have a who was real. So I have, a lot of the characters were real people, obviously told through my own personal lens and idiom. But just in case you're curious and you wanted to know, I put at the end of the book, like, okay, who was a real person in historical records that was also a character in this book. So I do enjoy that. And that book, the next book, I'm okay. Projected 2028. I'm gonna try to get it to you fall of 27. Because I am feeling very inspired and I think I might just write it in tandem with Ambition and Justice. I'm really excited about it. Lucretia, the part of the thing with Lost Beacon Chronicles as well is that she is going through the stages of grief after I traumatized the living shit out of her in Spare the Swallow. So, the origin story is difficult and for her. But a good read, 5 stars, and an award-winning book now. But then Ignited, which is the next book in the series, which takes place 43 AD, Roman conquest of Britain, but she is on the side of the Cadavulani, which is a tribe, the main tribe of Britannia that fought, like that really rallied against the Romans and pushed against them. About 60 years before Boudica, if you are wondering, Boudica was part of the Iceni. The Iceni actually first they bargained with Rome. They were like, cool, cool, cool. And Boudica was she was like a kid. I'm not 60 years. I'm sorry. It was about mm, 26-ish years. So I had so 60 AD is Boudica's whole thing. And the 26, 27 years prior, you have 43 AD is when the Roman conquest of Britain happened, and that was when the Cadavulani were fighting against them. And that was a big with Togodumnus and Caratacus and da 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 da. Anyway, if you want, I actually follow things, but I tell it from the Cadavulani perspective, which we have no records of. We only have records of the Roman perspective. But because I'm a fantasy author, and I also like to tell the history from the side that didn't get to tell their side of the story, at least not in anything that we can find today. You can see it and how it happens, but that one is called Ignited because that is Lucretia's journey from depression into anger because the events trigger her anger and she becomes ignited in her anger through just trying to help the Catavolani and fight for them. And then the next book uh in the series is going to be called Rampage because this is the heavy anger stage. It's a lot of fighting. It's a lot of fighting. And I'm going to be kind of skipping time a little bit because not like I'll date everything in the chapters, but I got to tell you, she's mad and she just needs to get that rage out, and so she is traveling around looking for um just causes, which there are a lot. I mean, it's the first century AD Europe. No, first century AD ever. They're a thing. She finds fights, and she finds things that she deems that she wants to just. She's just trying to get that anger out, really, quite honestly. And she fights, and then win, lose, I don't know. But then she just that fight's over. Move, find the next one. Move on to the next one. That and that, and then but Rampage, of course, towards the end of it, the Rampage, it's gonna be from about roughly the year 50 AD to around 100 AD to give you like a linear timeline. And then around 100 AD, which he is going to find herself in a different part of the world. I'm not going to tell you where. We are going to have her start to realize start to phase out of anger, and I haven't decided if she's gonna go into bargaining next. Because of course the stages of grief are not linear, they can be very cyclical, they can anyway, you can just ping pong around that shit. And so yeah, I'm excited, but I do have that mapped out. So I'm gonna be writing Rampage and I'm gonna draw maps. Really love drawing maps. So we're doing that, and then 2026. I know I'm jumping around a lot. I'm excited. I'm also hungry. So we're about to wrap this up. 2026, I am already secured as a guest and panelist. And I'll have a table as well at Con Possible in also in the Sonesta in Duluth, Georgia. So the same hotel as Conjuration and Stellarfest, which I also am applied for Stellarfest. Yeah, I'm secured for that. April 24th through 26th. I am applied to JordanCon. Haven't heard back from them yet, but JordanCon, if I'm in, I'll be there April 17th through 19th. And then I also will be applying to be back at Atlanta Comic Con. That was amazing. And I am also going to be having my awesome collaboration partner and one of my dear, dear, dear friends, Lyric from Teddy Bear Body, will be with me definitely at Atlanta Comic Con again. And we did that together last year. Amazing. Had the best time. And I am going to see about if she can come out, join me at maybe Con Possible and a few other places. So that'll be really fun. Again, like I'll announce them to you. I'll be doing more events with Second and Charles and Roswell and Kennesaw as well if they're around. And also, there's the Benevolent Book Dragon, which is a brand new organization, traveling bookshop. I heard based in Kennesaw or Woodstock, Georgia, and apparently their first event is happening November 23rd in downtown Woodstock at one of the like breweries there. But the Benevolent Book Dragon on Instagram, check them out. I have already messaged. I have a friend who knows the creator, and she was telling me about it, and she said, "Oh, I wanted to ask. Do you want me to? Can I give her your name?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course you can. I would love that." So I might. I said Conjuration was going to be my last event of the year. I might be adding another one, but it would just be like a couple hours on the 23rd of November. So that's where I am now. Have a wonderful, happy, happy spooky season. I yeah, I hope you all have the best time and eat lots of candy.